Alright, hello. Welcome to Kirby Star Allies. This is the most recent Kirby game, with a release date of March of 2018, and with updates as recent as November of that same year. Despite being a Kirby game, I'm not here to show you Kirby today. I'm actually here to show you Guest Star, which is a mode where you can play as every enemy in this game, as well as special bosses from a bunch of other games in the series. It's a very fan-servicey game, but we're actually going to take the new characters for a ride. We have the Mage Sisters here. These are the kind of underlings to the main villain of the game in the story mode, and it just so happens that they have a very fast run. One thing I'm going to point out now is we have the top right in-game time. We use that to time runs. So the Mage Sisters act as a tag team, and in the tag team, the most used sister here is going to be Zan Partisan, mostly because she has this 360-degree directional air dodge that you see me kind of spamming everywhere. You might even hear my clicks if they're loud enough. And that's the best form of movement, not only in this run, but in basically any run out of every character in the game. This is the fastest thing to do. There we go. So there I'm switching between them just to kind of get rid of elemental barriers. Obviously Flamberge, the fire sister, is going to be good for dealing with ice blocks. And here I'm making friends. This is a core mechanic of the game. You need to have friends for certain things, and I'm deciding to make the ones that I am. It's kind of weird, the movement to make them, but there's going to be something later in this level that's going to make a lot of sense as to why I did what I did. It's one of those things where I can't really explain it too well. You'll just have to kind of wait and see what I do. But we're coming up on it quickly. So I'm just going to keep moving down here. Here I won't be able to air dodge because I have to carry a key over to this door. And here you get a speed up heart. So there are these 3 hearts in each level. Well, not 3, there are many more than 3, but there are 3 types of hearts. Ones that up your attack, your defense, or rather your max HP, and your speed. And we want to take the speed and attack ones as much as possible, maybe. This is the Friend Train. Friend Train is one of the many abilities that you get when you get one of those little podiums that you saw earlier. I'm trying to cut corners on this by just jumping at edges like that, but it's mostly an auto-scroller. So I don't have too much to say. But with the friend layout I have here, once I bonk on the wall to end the friend train animation, that Dribbly, which is the water enemy, will actually grab that health up part through, like, in the animation. And instead of having to watch the end of the animation, I can just get right back into gameplay, which is, again, why I mentioned earlier the party that I set up. Here I'm actually going to toss out all the friends that I made because health scales in this game. The more people out on the battlefield, the more health bosses have. And the AI in this game is just not good enough to justify the health increase of having a bunch of friends with you. Fortunately, Zan Partisan's damage per second, especially with the moves you see me spamming right here, is very high. So bosses would still go down rather quickly, even if I didn't get rid of the friends, but it's still time save. I'm too used to having splits, I'd almost actually split there. But each level, not including the final level that has 2 checkpoints, has a checkpoint. Not exactly in the middle. Some of the checkpoint sections are much shorter than, like, the second half of the level, but for the sake of convenience and understanding, I'm going to say in the middle. So in the middle of each stage is 1 checkpoint where you can reload if you're doing segmented, or if you're doing casually and you're not going to play this whole game in one sitting. I'm not doing segmented, although there is a big part of the Guest Stars community that focuses on segmented runs. I'm not a part of that, and I'm not showing that off right now. Now we're getting into 2 mini-bosses here. You're gonna notice one thing once I kill Bonkers, is I'm gonna just throw a friend heart and then unfriend. Some of these animations, first off, I should point out, don't go through the in-game timer, which is how we time this game, and which is why I'm not doing a lot of things that look like they'd be faster. Because I'm trying to save IGT over actual RTA. But also, in Kirby games, you usually are given time to suck up the ability of a boss you just defeated, and instead, in this game, instead of just trying to beat up on the body to, you know, not have to wait through that whole thing, we just friend and unfriend. It's faster. So here I'm going to grab this all ability heart, which gives me a level up on both speed and attack, which are both good. And now we're going to head into the first boss here. I'm keeping Vividria for something later. The health scale from one friend doesn't really offset this fight at all, compared to, say, keeping all 3. If we use this friend circle here, we're going to immediately just finish off the first phase of the fight. And get into the second shortly. You might remember this scene from the trailer. Here I'm going to use a laser. Yep, Zan Partisan has a laser. Although, I'm fighting this boss with Zan Partisan, but you might have noticed earlier there was like this little enemy arena that I actually took out Francisca to do. And I should explain that a little bit. So although Zan Partisan actually technically has the highest damage per second, Francisca's kind of a gimmicky character, as the final one of the 3 I've yet to talk about. When it comes to her ice abilities in this game can freeze enemies and turn them into ice blocks, which can hurt other enemies, and that makes her fast for combat because not only can ice basically instantly freeze, big enough ice attacks can instantly freeze a lot of sized enemies with Francisca, and not only that, but also you can kind of do some enemy arenas a lot easier when you can keep ice cubes for later. But coming into level 2 here, I'm gonna go up here. That friend heart isn't worth getting, or not that friend heart, but that attack up heart. And that was really good movement for that screen. Ideally, on screens like that, you want to end off the screen being able to just perfectly do a down attack into the door, because they're usually gonna put an enemy right on the door. And that screen was also pretty good. There are some points where I'm actually using the D-pad. Usually you want to use the analog stick for this movement, because it's all about angles, this game. It's all about making sure the angles at which you're dashing is good in order to, you know, save those small time saves in basically every screen. But in some screens, you literally just need to move straight forward. So sometimes it's good to just get the D-pad out. And here's what I was using Vividria for. The health scale from DDD is kind of offset by the fact that Vividria does this room really quickly. For example, I used to do a strat where I took the Blade Knight right outside this room, and he bounces off enemies like no tomorrow. So I dropped that and started picking up Vividria, who I'm actually going to drop right here. It doesn't matter about this boss though, because we have invincibility candy, so we can actually kill that mini-boss in like the little time frame where the mini-bosses are supposed to have like super armor basically, and not be able to take much damage by anything. But just Zan Partisan's damage combined with invincibility candy means death. She's a killer. Coming up though, we're nearing the end of the first portion of this level. We just kind of need to skip this. That's the friend bridge, which we can only use if we want secrets, which we don't really care too much for. It's the amount of time that takes is not worth it just to get that one attack up. Here at the beginning of this portion, we're going to switch to Francisca and do a bunch of ice dashes through this screen. Alright, there we go. There was one there where I kind of had to do one really fast to prevent something from falling on me. So I was kind of focusing there because I didn't want it to fall on me. I was close. Okay. There, my only visual cue is the movement of the screen. And the screen always moves when I'm moving this fast, so it's a really weird visual cue to try and end that last screen correctly. This one's a little bit easier, except I still messed it up a bit. There we go. I was a bit too far to the right. If you couldn't tell. Here, I'm actually not gonna dash because the wind pushing me makes me go really fast. I'm gonna do some dashes just to, like, get up quicker. And then right here to get through this enemy. Never mind. The problem there was I landed on the ground and then hit the shield button. Alright, coming up though, we're gonna have a double mini-boss. I'm gonna charge up a friend circle, which you saw me do on a few bosses, but I never mentioned it. It's a charge-up attack that does a lot of damage. And the in-game timer doesn't move during it, so... It's good. I'm gonna... immediately get rid of these two, and then I'm gonna stay on the ground, because this speed-up heart spawning is actually a trigger with where you are on the screen, and not like a certain timer after the mini-boss is dying, or the platform movement. So... that's why I stalled like that. Here's what a big enemy arena fight usually goes like with Francisca in the party. You just kind of use a bunch of these projectiles. And then this fight is pretty simple. Yeah, keep an ice cube up there, it can kill the big enemy at the top, which usually doesn't like to freeze, but it's fine. And then coming up we have the last wave of this screen. Places like enemy waves, once I'm done getting their explanations done, like I am now basically, are the best points in the run for donation. Because they're the only... that and the friend train sections that I mentioned earlier are the best points, because they're the only points that movement isn't the biggest focus, so that allows me to just, like, be more in the movement that I need to do to throw all the icicles or just get the jumps right, rather than, like, getting the dash angles correct, which is much more precise and difficult to do. Coming up here, we're gonna have Meta Knight, or rather, Parallel Meta Knight. It's kind of interesting the way this game does the parallel stuff, because actually in order to unlock, and that was an accidental switch, the Mage Sisters in this mode, you have to beat a side mode called Heroes in Another Dimension with a rank of A or better. And in that mode, it uses all these parallel bosses, which are harder versions, because it's supposed to be like that in that mode. So they decided to give the parallel versions of the bosses to guest stars with Mage Sisters. So I basically have harder boss fights than any other character in the game. But they're still not that bad. Again, of course they'd give the hardest bosses to the people, or the characters with the best DPS, basically, in the whole game. And that is level 2. Obviously, these puzzle pieces, you don't want to collect them because at the end of the level, you have to watch that little animation. However, we're still using IGT to time the game, so I don't actually care too much. It's not something that's going to ruin my RTA estimate, you know? It's just going to be a small time waste on a timer that I'm not using. So here, we're going to switch just like that. That's a really weird input to get on top of the frozen log and then do a dash, but it actually works out fairly consistently if you just do the movement that you need to do. Coming up, we're gonna do this screen. We're gonna try and get a all-up part here, so I'm gonna try and hit this switch, even though it moves fast. There we go. And then move right into there. Which is good to do right at the beginning of the level. You know, it gives us an attack up and a speed up to work with for the entire next 4 minutes, basically. Well, more than 4 minutes, but in-game minutes. This game ruins your sense of time. Here I'm going to do dash attack. Then the last two blocks in this room, the position of the switch is actually in a perfect spot to just dash attack. And we'll get the switch hit through the block because our spear is long enough. So coming up here we have Pawn Khan, who you might remember from Kirby's Dream Land 3, back on the Super Nintendo. Yeah, these guys are back, and we're gonna just destroy them. So we have the friend wheel here, and then around this point we're gonna... I think I messed it up. I did mess it up. Okay, I got lucky on their pattern though. So what I was trying to do before I stabbed the spear twice was use Electro Eclair, which was that little laser. Well, not little laser, but very big laser. However, when they start running across the screen again and again, they don't guarantee both show up in the same pattern. So there could be a chance if I mess up that kill by messing up the Electro Eclair inputs, I have to wait multiple patterns to have either Pawn or Khan show up. However, fortunately, I was lucky enough to get them both to show up at the same time while my laser was still active, so I didn't lose too much time. And I can still talk about that, because these last few screens of the checkpoint, not much happens. I'm just going to be running through here. In fact, this is the last screen of the checkpoint entirely. Once I hit this door that's right up here, that's going to be... bam. So now we're on the second part of level 3. We're going to have to go up here and then back down. Poor Plug. Usually you just kind of dash into them. Actually, dashing into enemies as Zan Partisan is something that does a decent amount of damage. Like, some fairly big enemies can get insta-KO'd by it. There we go. So coming into this next fight, I use the actually spawn-in attack that the Mage Sisters have when you switch to them. Yeah, every time you switch to a Mage Sister, it actually does a little attack. And I actually can use that to freeze enemies at the beginning of enemy waves by switching from Zan back to Francisca. And yes, if I haven't mentioned it yet, these three have a consistent cycle pattern, so every time I want to switch from Francisca to Zan, I have to go through Flamberge, who is only going to be used for like maybe 3 enemies at this point in the game. Like I've used her for like 90% of what I need her for already in Act 1 or Level 1. Now coming up here, just kind of more screen movement. Level 3 is really interesting because at this point in the normal game, this is where you're supposed to fight the Mage Sisters, actually. You're supposed to fight all 3 of them separately. However, since we're kind of playing as them, the game doesn't make us fight them. Because they don't have a parallel version, like everybody does. So, we can't do much. And as such, this just kind of becomes a rather boring level as we're trying to just navigate through... Well, I wouldn't say boring. I'd more say repetitive, because it removes a lot of the bosses and just kind of replaces them with more and more enemy waves. It's not the worst enemy waves, or even the longest. I'd say level 5 has kind of the monopoly on enemy waves. But it's mid-run Crisis. I hope you don't mind the train whistle that happens every time the train jumps. We're done with this section soon, trust me. One thing I'm going to do to speed it up a little bit at the end of it is, once we get to the end here, I'm going to jump on this platform and then jump onto the wall, just to save a little bit of time in terms of ending the friend train. I fortunately succeeded, so you saw it in action. And then coming up, we're going to near the end of Act 3, or Level 3, with an enemy wave, because we can't fight Zan Partisan. Again, yeah, you're supposed to fight the Mage Sisters here in basically any other mode, whether it be a different character's guest star mode, or, say, if you're doing any percent. We just kind of get an enemy wave. And it's not even a big one at that. It's just a few of those guys, and then of Avidria we get the friend circle. And that's going to be the end of the level. Like, seriously, when I throw this friend heart at Vividria, and then replace a friend with Vividria, which I guess I have Vividria now, we're going to end the level right here. So that's level 3. Alright, so now moving on to the level 4. This kind of is going to be an interesting one thematically, because in the normal game, once again, talking about, say, if you were doing any percent, this would take place in a Milky Way Wishes type area, from Kirby Superstar, meaning, what it does is, you have these levels where you have, like, one level that's kind of short in a certain theme, and then the next level is also fairly short, but changes themes. So we're gonna have every couple screens or so, like a huge theme background change. Setting is the word I'm looking for. Coming up, I just need to get a key from the top of the room and then fall down to the bottom. Yeah, as you see, after like 3 or 4 screens, I'm already into this water level area. It's gonna keep going like this. If I swim on the insides here, I won't get hit by the projectiles that these water guys shoots out. Okay. I don't want to be in the water as much as I can because I can't Electro Dash in the water. And Electro Dashing into the water will put sparks into the water, which damage stuff. And blow up bomb blocks, which is what I did earlier. Coming up now, we'll see how my friends fare. I want them to stay alive for this upcoming fight. Coming up, we have kind of a rematch against Pon and Con. This is Goldon and Silvox. It's the same strategy with one change in the fight, in that after this phase, what's going to happen is they're going to knock me silly, and we're going to end up over here. Now, when we have 4 friends with us, we always start on the right side, just like I did there. So I want to aim my laser to the left side, because most likely, it didn't happen that time, but most likely they'll appear on the opposite side. Well, actually, that's not true. They'll most likely appear on the left side at all times, but it just so happens the left side is the opposite side in the more common pattern when you have a full team with you. Speaking of a full team, we might see a few deaths here from the allies, but that's fine. It actually doesn't really matter if we have any right now, so I'm just going to let it happen if it happens. One of them was off-screen when they died, so they're just permanently dead now. But those 2 that were, like, still on-screen when they died, they're still alive. They just have very low health now. And I want to get this box because it has an all-up part, but I apparently can't do... There we go. I could not do the inputs I wanted to get a little thundercloud. Coming up into Ice World. Again, we're doing a part now that's based off of, like, these small sections of level. that are just different planets, basically. Y'all are older than me. Y'all know what Kirby Superstar is, right? So coming up, we have an enemy fight where I'm not only gonna toss out Francisca, but I'm also gonna toss out all my friends, because I'm at a point where I just kind of want to be solo, because I'm gonna be doing fights that I have to Ice Cube strat correctly with Francisca into a boss fight that I don't want to have extra health from having allies with me. And of course the snowflakes are going to do for a good finale to this fight section. And ends off with a triple heart. Alright, now, next boss here. Just going to fly up this way, and we're going to have another returning face from the series, except in a more dastardly form. Here's Parallel Twin Kracko. Bosses like Wispy Woods have been fought in twins, but I believe this might be the first time in the series that Kracko has ever showed up as a twin to other characters, or to act as a boss for other characters. I definitely know mini-boss pairs like to show up. That happens in this game. This is also one big Kracko that was split into two in Phase 1, but now that it's in Phase 2, we can just kind of spam this Thunder attack until that health bar is nothing but a foreign memory. And that ends off level 4. So now it's time for the final level, which is level 5. Level 5 does not play around. I'll tell you this now. It is a very hard level where we basically never get a health up. Alright. Getting this attack up is worth the cycle switch, because the final boss is very scary. And again, because of the health situation in this level, I'm actively trying to prevent damage as much as possible. It's not going to be as important as, say, in the last checkpoint, which is legitimately my last heal, unless I die. But I still do want to be careful. Alright, and then at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end off by switching to Zan Partisan, and then going down here for this double mini-boss. Which, of course, we're going to friend circle. However, we still do have one more friend section that's not quite friend train, but we still need a pedestal with 4 friends with it. So I'm going to take this, these 2 bonkers that I just demolished with me into the next checkpoint. And they're gonna try and help me for this fight. They're not gonna do a very good job of it, but you know, they're trying their best, and that's what matters. The thing is, they kind of go to you if there's no enemies, and with the rate that enemies spawn here, they try and go over to the left side, so they don't really do much in terms of, you know, actually dealing with one side while you deal with the other. You kind of have to guide them around, and they barely do what you want them to do. Alright, coming up, though, we're going to have a room where I'm going to make my last friend that I'm going to need for the pedestal. I'm going to jump up and I'm going to grab this Sir Kibble. And then I'm just going to rush through the room. Alright. And here we go. Now, this time we're not going to have the friend train, we're going to have the friend wheel, which is still an auto-scroller. But unlike friend train, there's no slopes here, so we're not really going to be saving or losing time on it. We just have to make each jump. Here, I'm not going to hit this switch that's up here. There it is. Because I don't want to go to the secret area. I just want to hit this door. I just want to go through the screens, you know? I'm not actually too focused on... Alright, getting through an enemy wave there. Here, what I do is I dash off as soon as I can, because the enemy wave doesn't wait for the platform, it just waits for you to hit a certain point. So if I dash over to where the enemy wave begins, it will start before the platform. And usually the platform catches up by the time I really need it to. In old updates of this game, you could straight up skip it. But old updates of this game don't have the Mage Sisters as available characters, so... I mean, it would still be better for any percent, I guess, but... if you could down patch on Switch, which I'm not sure if you can. I have not focused on any percent since basically release when I tried it for a while and didn't like it too much. Although I do want to get back into it now that I, you know, understand Modern Kirby a bit more. But that's a topic for another time. Here we're going to head into the final level. Level 5, checkpoint 3. Get in the door. This is... I'm going to be trying my hardest to make sure I take no damage, basically. Just so I have as much health as possible for the final boss. I'm not going to do a very good job with that. And I don't care about the allies at this point, so it's fine that they all got crushed. I'm going to get this health, though, which is going to heal a decent amount. I usually don't take damage on that lava block, so it was a bit unexpected there. But here I need to be careful, because sometimes Zan likes to move really fast, but these lava blocks do damage like you would not believe. We're good, though. And as long as I don't take hits again, which I usually don't from this point onwards, we have a pretty good amount of health for the rest of the run. I just have to make sure to not die in the next couple screens. Which these moving blocks can crush you if you're not doing your movement or patterns well. And I can end off waves like that by just rushing to the right, and it's good. I'm going to switch to Francisca for this part of the wave. And then I'm going to take this safe by backing up. You can go for that door before the blocks crush you. and it does save a little bit of time, but as you can imagine, it's very scary. And now the cycle is kind of not what I want it to be here, because I messed up that fight a little bit. The cycle does kind of matter for this part right here. You know what? I did that fine. Yeah, that went well enough. Despite the mess-ups I said I just had. Here. I should mention that though some of the blocks are like that, some of the blocks are camera cycles. Like those ones at the end there are camera cycles. So it depends on when I get to that point of the screen. So they're basically the ones that would benefit from not doing that. Do that. But now coming up we have the final boss, which is a modified version of Galactonite, you know, a recurring kind of end of true mode character. This is Morpho Knight. And Morpho Knight is very difficult. Has a lot of very strong attacks like this, which is why I kind of want to play safely. Which I have a lot of damage accumulated right now, so I'm going to try and be careful with this upcoming phase, because it's very hard to dodge, and I'm pretty sure I'll die if I miss dodge. Alright, and there we go. So with Morpho Knight defeated, that's going to be the end of the game here. He's going to fade away, and we're going to get our results. Hi! That's a PB. That's actually a personal best for me, by almost half a minute. As you can see, 4 new best segments out of the 5. This is a game that, if you have a good run, you have a good run of this game, and I'm very happy with how that run went, so I can't really complain at all. So I guess, I don't think I have to let the credits run here, but there are credits, which look pretty neat. You can run around in them and, you know, collect hearts and stuff. But yeah, this is what I have to offer in terms of Kirby guest stars. Playing or Kirby Star Allies, playing guest stars with the Mage Sisters. And yeah, I hope this run at least puts up a strong fight to be accepted if it doesn't fully get accepted. But obviously I wish it would be. But I don't control that. That's why I'm throwing this video your way. I'll see you hopefully at the I mean, not hopefully at the event. There's a very high chance I'll still be going, even if I don't get a game in. But, you know, that's what I'm aiming for. I don't know how to word it. I'm working on that, trust me. I'll make sure to work on my phrasing and commentary and pauses better before the event itself. Don't worry about it. But with that being said, yeah, I think it's just good to end off the recording here. So, thank you.